Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. When it comes to security systems, you need a company you can trust, a company with a proven track record, one that you can ask your neighbors about, one whose sign you see on homes and businesses all over town, one with the very best contracts and deals. Well, one is the number because we've got one like that around here, and only one, Safety Systems. SafetySystems.com to learn more. Call VFL J.J. Surlis this week and his team, and they can hook you up with the best in East Tennessee security systems for your home or your business. I trust them, been using them for years. Safety Systems. Okay. Rick Barnes said this week that he knows, he doesn't think, he knows that they have improved their perimeter shooting with their new additions. Okay. Tossing back to what Chuck said in the last segment, I go back to guys like Justin Powley, Jay Anasicki, Tyreek Key, guys who played well elsewhere, came here, did a bit less, and in some cases left and did more once they left. The key, as Chuck rightfully pointed out in that last segment, seems to be defense. Do they play defense? If not, they're not going to be out there. So you can get a great perimeter shooter, but if he's giving up 2 on the other end, we don't want your 3 at our end. We're not going to do the math on that and take the +1. So let's talk about Dalton Connect. Here's some more of his video, but I want to read to you what one of the folks with The Athletic wrote about Dalton Connect. This might be the strangest fit I've seen in the portal thus far. Now, he brags about Connect's offense, and then he says, but the big question here is how Barnes will react to coaching Connect on defense. I have some real skepticism about Connect on that end. He's going to have to really be willing to buy in and accept the hard coaching that will come. It will be sink or swim. If he doesn't improve on defense, he might not play as much as people think. Okay, now they've also added a good shooter in Jordan Gainey. They've added a guy in Chris Ledlum who's getting compared to Grant Williams, which I don't think is fair. But I'll start with you, Vince, on the Dalton Connect thing, playing the defense. I mean, all these guys say they want to get better at defense, but saying that and being coached by Rick Barnes are two different things.
Yeah, for sure. And he was told that they're going to work on his defense and getting him stronger and that type of thing. That is the key to getting on the field, on the court for Tennessee basketball. I am concerned. I think he offensively, he's exactly what they need. They need a creator. They need a driver, a guy that's really versatile. The problem is until I see a transfer at Tennessee really explode and be as good as he was previously and fit in, I'm going to be a little bit skeptical. And the defense is going to be the key. I don't know how much he can improve defensively or how much he'll buy in.
Yeah, I mean, folks were watching him hit threes there, drive to the basket, slam it home. I mean, he looks great. I didn't see any defensive highlights there. Josh.
Yeah, the hope would be that he's an older guy now going through the transfer process that recognizes he needs to be a better defender based on some comments he made, right? And he will be in workouts and he'll be in practice with Vescovi, who arrived not being a very good defender and became a pretty good defender for Tennessee, and Jemai Mashak, who is a really good defender. And you're competing with those guys, and you're hoping that he will recognize, I have to be better, I have to work harder. Maybe not be as good as them defensively, but to get on the court. But your skepticism is understood because of what we've seen from transfers coming into Tennessee and the hope that they would make a big impact. His skill set offensively is what they need.
Yeah. We're going to show some other, as we continue this conversation, let's roll the video of Jordan Gainey, and then we'll roll straight into Chris Ledlum after that. Jimmy, your thoughts on all 3 of these guys and coming in? We could talk about all they bring to the table offensively, but unless they're willing to jump in and play defense, and not only be willing to play defense, but they have to play defense well. I don't think Rick Barnes is going to put you out there just because you try. I think you're going to have to do it or he's going to be ticked off and he's going to yank you out of there. We've seen that. So what are your thoughts on these guys? You're bringing in 3. How confident are you that you're going to see 1 or 2 of these guys make an impact next year?
My thoughts are you need to mellow a little bit on your defensive stance or else these guys will not be productive for you. And I don't know that he will. I look at, is there a better example than Tyreek Key? Here's a guy that came in averaging 17.5 points at Indiana State. If he stayed there, he's going to be the number 2 scorer in school history behind Larry Bird. He became a point guard and improved his defense. But you lost the offensive weaponry that you had with him. That concerns me. If you're going to focus on defense with these guys, are they still going to be able to score? I mean, all of them average. One of them averaged like 14 points, another one 16, another one 20, something like that. So you brought in some scoring, but I think you're going to have to back away and say if you're not a defensive stopper, you don't play. if you go with that mentality, I don't think these guys are going to make a huge impact with
John,
this
here's
team.
another concern I have is how muffled will they be with their offensive ability in this motion offense? Are they now going to be asked to fit in as opposed to showcase what they can do as creators, as drivers? They're going to have to play within the offense because that's what they normally do. I think Tennessee might have to give in a little bit on some of that stuff, it's calling for plays or whatever, in addition to the concerns about the defense.
Gainey was a guy that shot a lot off screens, and Tennessee was one of the leading teams last year in terms of shots off screens and one of the stats I saw. So Gainey you would think would fit if he does come, if his shooting translates. But again, you know, his dad's an assistant coach over there. So you would think if anybody's going to buy in on the defensive front, it's him.
He knows what he's getting into coming to Tennessee for sure.
But the trick is also, Drew Pember wasn't good enough to be here. You let Drew Pember go. He went to the Big South Conference. Jordan Gainey's coming here from the Big South Conference. We'll see. I mean, if Drew Pember wasn't good enough to be here, well, he's Big South Conference level. And you go get somebody from the Big South Conference, is this kid going to be good enough, any better than what Drew Pember was? Two completely different positions, different type players, but I just wonder I wonder why Drew Pember had to go away personally, and then he went and became Player of the Year in that conference.
And defensive
There you
player of the
go.
year.
There you go. No. I think you nailed it. I think it's time for Rick Barnes to lighten up on the defensive front a little bit. I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you have to hope that he went. I mean, last year was the most painful watch since he's been here. And the question you have to ask is he getting more and more focused on defense? The stats say he is. If you look at he was more offense than defense at Texas, and he's gotten more defense than offense here. But just 4 years ago, he was more offense than defense, the best team he had here. So was last year a situation where he looked at that roster and said, oh, we just don't have the offensive horses, so I am going to have to put everything on defense. We're going to have to grind. And this year, he's willing to say, all right, I got better shooters. We're going to play differently. I don't think it's going to be a night and day switch, but if he eases up a little, as you suggest, I think that could go a long way.
You know what else could help them be a better shooting team is if guys are playing in their natural best positions. And unfortunately,
It gets back to Tyreek Key, which Jim was talking about.
Too often guys are having to play the point, and now you're impacting two positions. That's what would help them is if guys can be where they're naturally their best.
Yeah, and the identity is going to change. Let's assume Josiah's not coming back because that's the expectation. And the big question around Zakai, that affects what you are defensively.
Yeah.
That affects your identity as a basketball team on both ends of the floor. But I would probably stress on defense with how important he is guarding at the top of the perimeter.
Yeah.
So the wise thing to do would be, okay, our personnel has changed, our identity has changed. We need to change what we are.
All right. Very good, guys. I appreciate it. Vince, I know you're going to call Vols baseball here in a few minutes,
Yeah,
aren't
see
you?
if Tennessee can get a sweep. Crazy.
Good luck to you, and we appreciate you coming in today. We'll be back. We'll bring in the rest of the guys. We got a little baseball to discuss. Notice we get Vince out of here, then we start talking baseball. We'll talk Kelly Harper's contract. We'll talk football rule changes. We'll also talk NFL draft coming up. Come on back. Much more to come on the Sports Source.